Welcome to the video version of the African American Literary Review. The African Literary Review on Blog Talk Radio will begin its third season starting November the 27th, 2010. So, for more info, you can contact Tracy Ricks Fosters, me, on Facebook or at books.aalr@gmail.com. The video version of the African American Literary Review, I am just so excited about it. I'm trying something new, so email me and let me know if you like it. If you don't bother to email. All right, on this version, the first version, video version of the African American Literary Review, today's review will be The Long Song by Andrea Levy. I really enjoyed this book. This book is a great book to read on the airplane. I had a long flight, and this book really was very great, and I enjoyed it immensely. What is The Long Song about? Well, you know how we hear a lot about African Americans during African American slavery, African Americans and Civil War, and we've always heard about the African American experience when it comes to slavery, but rarely do we hear a lot about the experience of Africans sold into slavery in Jamaica or any of the Caribbean islands. So that's what makes The Long Song such a great read, or what I found to be a pleasurable read, because it's a historical, fictitious novel about something that is very pertinent about the African American or the African experience during slavery time. Let me give you a little background on The Long Song. First of all, The Long Song was written by author Andrea Levy. And Andrea Levy is also the author of Small Island. That is the book that introduced us to Miss Levy, and it became an acclaimed book. It won both the Orange Prize and the Whitbread Book of the Year award, and has sold over 1 million copies. And once again, Andrea Levy was up for a number of awards for The Long Song. This book is told in the intimate voice of Miss July. And Miss July is a very full, vivacious character. It begins with Miss July telling the story of her life. At first we don't know it's Miss July speaking of her own life as a slave girl in Jamaica, but soon we realize through flashbacks to her son, who happens to be a publisher and an editor, we learn that Miss July is telling the story of her life, the autobiography, the memoir of her life. Miss July's son, Thomas, he's a very strong character, and we learn of his story. His story is intertwined through Miss July's story of slavery, hardship, torture, all of that within The Long Song. Miss July, she happens to be the child of a field slave on the Amity Sugar Plantation. Miss July lives with her mother until Mrs. Caroline Mortimer, who happens to be a recently transplanted English widow, decides to move her into the gray house and renames July Marguerite. And that is how the story begins. She soon becomes indispensable to her mistress, and they live through the bloody Baptist War in Jamaica, followed by the chaotic end of slavery in Jamaica. Miss July learns to read and write so she can help her mistress in the plantation business. And she remains on the plantation despite her freedom. And it is the arrival of a young English overseer by the name of Robert Goodwin, who will dramatically change her life in the big house or the gray house for both Miss July and her mistress. What makes the last song such uh, a great book, in my opinion, is the storytelling and the writing. And Miss Levy, she is a remarkable storyteller. Um, the voices and the characters within the last song are so vivid, so powerful, and so alive. You can smell the burning during the Baptist War, the burning of plantations. You can smell the fields. You can see, imagine the sands of Jamaica, the beautiful beaches and the water. But you can also feel the pain and suffering that Miss July underwent being a slave girl and ultimately a slave woman, a product of slavery in Jamaica. Let me give you some information about Miss Livy. Um, as I said, a really, really great book. And Miss Livy, she didn't start writing books until she was in her mid-30s. She's not an American. She lives in Britain. And she realized at the time she began writing in her mid-30s that there was very little written about the Black British experience in Britain. So after attending various writing workshops, Miss Levy began to write novels that she, as a young woman, had always wanted to read. Entertaining novels that reflected the African experience in Great Britain. And her first novel is a semi-autobiographical novel entitled Every Light in the House Burning, and that was written in 1994, which is the story of a Jamaican family living in London during the 1960s. And then her next book, which was published in 1996, is titled Never Far From Nowhere. This is a book about, or set, I should say, in the 1970s, and it tells the story of two very different sisters living on a London council estate. So, Miss Levy, and I'm sure she will correct me when I interview her in a few weeks. Miss Levy, she is a very uh, exciting writer, and if you have never heard of her, this is an author that you might want to really, really discover for yourself. The name of her book, the book that I have been speaking about, is called The Long Song. The Long Song is a book, as I said, a novel about slavery in Jamaica and the trials and tribulations of being a young or being a slave woman in Jamaica. It's really great. I really enjoyed it. As I said, the characters are alive, the storytelling is magnificent, and you just cannot get any better. You cannot get any better. I highly recommend this. This Long Song, a novel by Andrea Levy. This is the end of this version of the African American Literary Review, but stay tuned for another episode of the African American Literary Review video series coming up. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Happy reading.